That's right, the next Amazing Digital Circus episode is out. And upon realizing just how much we missed all of these weird characters, we figured it was time for us to rank our favorites. This is the Amazing Digital Circus tier list. And we have to start by saying that with the characters we've seen so far, there really aren't any that we don't like, at least a little bit.
That's why he's crazy.
So we have to start out with the B tier. And at the bottom, we have to go with the pilot episode's main antagonist, the Gloink Queen. All will be gloinks, or all would have been gloinks if this menace had gotten her way.
This is dumb and weird.
Really, she suffered from being part of an episode that had way more interesting stuff going on. Like, how are we supposed to care about some evil worm thing on a string threatening to turn everything into shapes when there's legitimate psychological horror going on in the meantime? But that's kind of where the humor came from this character, having this kind of goofy lore in the background that nobody really cares about. And while she's a much more pleasant character, Princess Lu suffers the same fate. Yeah, she's nice enough, she cares about her subjects and offers her heroes resources to help retrieve the kingdom's legendary maple syrup, but at the same time, she's in the background for most of the episode, and it's less than likely that we'll be seeing her again.
Farewell, good knights. I have every faith in you.
If that exit from Jax was anything to go by. Hopefully being eaten by a fudge monster is at least delicious alongside being fatal. Oh, and speaking of which, let's talk about the fudge. He's similar to the Gloink Queen in that he's a big scary monster who threatens the protagonist, but instead of wanting to turn everything into fudge, he just wants to eat all the candy he can. And he does have a few funny lines, which is what ranks him above the last two characters. And honestly, is it really murder if it's delicious? Wait a minute, is this guy Kirby? Whether or not we can answer that question, the final character in the B tier is our dearly departed Kaufmo. We sadly didn't get to spend time with Kaufmo before his abstraction. He was an effective introduction to one of the series' main conflicts, being said abstraction, but we just can't place him any higher than the characters who have made more of an overall impact on both the series and our enjoyment of it. But we will rank him as the highest character in the B tier, because of his heartfelt funeral scene in episode 2. It showed that despite the looming threat of potential insanity, these guys do care about each other.
Whoa, I'm already breaking.
Well, maybe except for Jax. It brought more of a wholesome vibe to the series as a nice feather in Kaufmo's cap, or party hat. But with perfect timing, we now enter the top 10, and it's time to transition into the A tier. First in this section is the main character who's had the least screen time, Zooble. She's by far the least interested of the bunch in Kane's adventures, often sitting out whenever the option arises.
But yeah, he's right.
Zooble earns some credit despite her lack of screen time for her heart at the end of episode 2. It's revealed that while she sat behind on the adventure, she was the one setting up a funeral for Kaufmo. This showed that she cares not only to honor her fallen friend's memory, but to help give her non-abstracted friends some much-needed closure. She's also the one character who's been both willing and able to return Jax's bullying to him, which definitely earns her some points. And quite the contrary is our next character, Gangle. The poor gal just can't keep her happy mask from being broken constantly.
My comedy mask is broken again.
It's a cute trait that she's either happy or despondent depending on what mask she wears though. Unfortunately, she seems to basically exist just to be tormented by either Jax or the universe itself. And like Zooble, she hasn't had much time to shine quite yet.
Gangle, you drive.
We're definitely open to the possibility of that changing though, and honestly, we're kind of curious what the figurine thing is referring to.
Do it, or I'll tell Ragatha about the figurine thing.
I'm onto you, Gangle. Now, our next character was arguably the hardest to rank, Jax. Unlike the other circus members, Jax is a dismissive bully and a jerk, and episode 2 upped his negative traits to 11 by turning him from just a snarky jerk to a full-on psychopath.
Whatever you say, kid.
This makes him by far the least likable of the main cast, so why didn't we rank him lower? Well, 2 reasons. For one, he's pretty funny. Lovable jerks in cartoons are a classic archetype. Rigby from regular show, Squidward from classic SpongeBob, etc.
I'm fine with doing whatever, as long as I get to see funny things happen to people.
And while Jax is a jerk, he's a pretty funny one, and he does sometimes get some nice payback.
Well, maybe there'll be blood, death, and violence in the next adventure.
As for the second reason, well, consider it more of an investment than anything else. We're getting some strong vibes that there is a lot more to Jax than we would expect. Everyone is coping with their new digital reality in their own way, so maybe Jax being so cynical and mean is his own way to keep from going insane. Or maybe it is his way of going insane. In any case, he's certainly interesting, and his contrast to the other characters makes him a good foil to the rest of the cast. Now, following Jax is the character who's basically his polar opposite, Ragatha. Ragatha is basically the big sister character of the group. She takes Pomni under her wing right away, helping her to not panic too much over her new environment and genuinely wanting to help her understand it.
You know, prevent us from going insane.
She's a sweetheart who's always putting the needs of others above her own, and it doesn't seem like she's insincere about this either. She's genuinely caring towards all the people around her.
Everyone all right?
In a show with as many dark, psychological elements, it's really refreshing to have a character who's just pure good in a sea of morally gray or mentally unstable. But now, however, it's time to get to the characters who we feel really make the show. This is the S tier. First up in our top tier, we have Orbsman. Even though he's only appeared in the teaser for Season 1, Glitch Productions has already proclaimed that Orbsman is everyone's favorite character. We weren't entirely sure if he would make sense to include, regardless, so we decided to ask Orbsman himself his thoughts, and the words he spoke to us on that fateful day were too beautiful to put into words, but he was generous enough to place himself in 6th place, allowing our top 5 to be full of some already prominent characters. At number 5, we have the last of Episode 2's new characters, Gummigoo. First of all, just look at him. He's a gummy Australian crocodile with a cool cowboy hat. While he would have been perfectly cool just as an antagonist of the episode, a glitch in the adventure leads him to the AI's testing room, and it results in him and the audience learning that the AI characters in said adventures have feelings, and don't know that they're actually, NPCs. His friendship with Pomni, albeit brief, was really heartwarming, and it contributed to finding out more about how feelings and personalities work in the digital circus world.
My life, my memories, my friends. So fake.
For being a charming character in and of himself and giving us some more lore exposition, we're more than happy to rank him in the S tier. But why couldn't you have just let him stay, Kane? In 4th place, we have the main character herself, Pomni. An adorable character design, great voice work, and by far the most relatable reaction to basically everything that goes on around her. Pomni is just the mentally unstable, close to her breaking point protagonist this series needs.
Why are we here again? What are we doing?
Episode 2 sort of surprised us for how much more depth she had. We were a little worried the show would just be her slowly losing her mind, which is still totally possible. But then there's this episode, which showed how she manages to bond with Gummigoo and her new circus friends, unlike the last episode, which ended with Pomni losing her mind. This episode ends with her smiling about just how much everyone here, again, except Jax, cares about each other. Despite losing Gummigoo as soon as she made friends with him, she's comforted by the fact that the people around her are real, even if nothing else is.
Our entire existence here is just LARPing.
It adds an extra layer of depth that makes her an even more fun character to watch unfold. The bronze medal of greatness goes to our favorite of the circus's guests, Kinger. And come on, who doesn't love Kinger? He's been here the longest out of anyone by far, and it shows. He's about one bad day from going from hunting down insects to pushing up daisies.
Did someone say something about an insect collection?
Despite this, Kinger is still a genuinely nice person. He shows great concern for Zubul being kidnapped by the Gloinks, and is able to comfort Ragatha when she's worried about Pomni not liking her, saying that he remembers when she was struggling to adjust to her new digital life as well.
Remember what?
Kinger may be unstable, but he's quite possibly the most advertently good person in the group alongside Ragatha. Even if he'll forget right after, he seems to always have some practical or emotional advice to give, and he's the kind of guy you can count on when you need him.
Gotcha!
Also, he's just really funny. From his delayed hearing to his goofy character design, anytime Kinger is on screen is a win in our book. The silver medal for best character in Amazing Digital Circus goes to the character who's basically defined the show so far, Kane. The AI host of the Digital Circus might seem like an antagonist, but he's actually as well-meaning as he is dangerous. And he is very dangerous.
Where I can keep my hundreds of all-seeing eyes on you.
With the snap of a finger, he can create new NPCs and phase them out of existence, to the point where many of his adventures have people who view him as a god. What makes Kane so entertaining is that, despite his incredibly chaotic nature, Kane isn't actually trying to hurt anyone. He's literally just doing what he's programmed to do, which is basically to keep his guests from going nuts.
Kaufmo abstracted? Why didn't anybody tell me?
There's no doubt that Kane absolutely defines the show for most people, including us. As fun as the other characters are to watch, he's the glue that holds everything together and gives the show that much needed unpredictability.
What do you think of...
But there's one character who truly elevates Kane to legendary status. And that's right, it may be controversial, or maybe not, I don't know. But we're giving the gold medal of the S tier to Bubble. And you know who Bubble kind of reminds us of? Gur from Invader Zim.
Now self-destruct.
You know, that character who doesn't get as much screen time as his master or the other main characters, but manages to absolutely steal the show every time he's on screen. Bubble has about 7 or 8 minutes of screen time over the 2 episodes so far, and every last one of them is hilarious. Heck, he has even less screen time in the new episode than the first one had, and he's responsible for the absolute hardest I've laughed in the series so far.
Buttery justice!
An entire kingdom of candy sounds sticky.
Very sticky indeed.
Sounds.
Bubble, you can't say that.
And that's what makes Bubble so great. Kane is an unhinged, well-intentioned lunatic, but next to Bubble, he looks like the most organized and reasonable guy around. On top of that, no matter what's going on, he just has the most blank expression on his face, like a cute little chain chomp with Funko Pop eyes. We truly have no deep reason for putting Bubble at the top of our list. He's just a true masterpiece of comedy.
No thanks, I'm trying to quit.
And we're hoping he pops up a lot more in the series as it goes on. But in all seriousness, what exactly did he say to make Kane shocked and disturbed?
Angel food cake? Ow! You parasite!